Good morning, everyone. My name is Sarah Fox. I am the CEO of the Connecticut Coalition to End Homelessness. CCEH, the Connecticut Coalition to End Homelessness, has existed since 1982. We are a coalition of shelter providers, regional leaders, and organizations all committed to solving homelessness together. CCH runs the Connecticut Can End Homelessness Initiative, a statewide initiative aimed at solving homelessness now. We're here today for a very pressing matter, saving lives this winter. The facts are indisputable. On our community by name list this week, we have 40 families who are outside, and there is more that we sure do not know of. Yesterday, I got a call about a mom, a working mom, with a 2 and a 3-year-old in her car. She's trying to make it work. Just last week, I learned of an almost 90-year-old in New London. She lost her apartment due to rising rents. She was in a shelter due to the great work of our homeless response system. She was in the shelter for far too long, but today she's moving into housing. We have stories like this all of the time. What we're seeing are marked increases in homelessness. We know beyond those 40 families, we have about 78 youth who are outside today. We also know that there are 500 individuals and perhaps more outside today. We're moving into winter. Yesterday, it was 46. The days are ticking. I'm bringing us all together, and CCH is bringing us all together to ensure that we have a coordinated response and that we have everything in place to save lives. Connecticut has done amazing things. We are a state that has so many things to be proud of when it comes to solving homelessness. Together, we were one of the first states to end veteran homelessness, and what that means is when a veteran becomes homeless, we, for the most part, can identify their needs and move them quickly into a housing resource to match those needs. Today, families are waiting for resources for about 230 days. Well, that's the longest. So there are some shorter times, but the longest time is 230 days. That's far too long for a child to stay in shelter. Those stories, and there's many more, exist all across the state. So we must address this humanitarian crisis. We have many things to be proud of. But one of the things I also know is standing here at Mercy Shelter and Housing, we've lost 7 positions here just recently. We have 60 positions recently lost across the state of people working on the front lines of our homeless response system, making sure people are safe. Those jobs, due to the lapse of COVID dollars, will impact our services. They do. They impact our services today and every day. Last session, we asked for $50 million to rescue the homeless response system. Today, that need is so clear. We asked for those dollars just to stabilize our system, because what we know is when we had the COVID era funding, we were able to do better. We were able to meet people's needs because those dollars matter. Today, they don't exist within our system. We are very grateful to the legislature for ensuring that we have $5 million to put towards shelters and the homeless response system that came out of the last legislative session. We need more in the future. So today I brought this wonderful group of legislators together to form an all-in response. And we also have Brandon McGee, the Deputy Commissioner for the Department of Housing. I will close this out, but I'm going to let everyone speak, and I will be back.
Good morning, I'm Senator Matt Lester, and I just want to thank Sarah for meeting us here today at Mercy Housing and for the work of my legislative colleagues. I'm joined by a number of my House colleagues, including the co-chair of the committee I serve on, the Housing Committee, Representative Jeff Luxembourg, as well as I also serve with Senator Marilyn Moore, who's co-chair. This is a critical issue. I happen to live in the city of Middletown, and every year we have a memorial service where we go remember those in the homeless community we've lost every year. And every year the number is staggering. Last year we got a little bit lucky in this state. We had a warmer than normal winter. We cannot count on that year in and year out. We have a crisis in the state. You saw in the statistics this morning that the number of homeless has increased by 13% last year. This is a really critical issue. It's a critical issue for all communities in the state. If you don't think homelessness affects your community, you are wrong. It does. We have a lot of work to do in the state. I'm really grateful for the leadership of the Housing Committee for pushing this issue, for making it a priority. We need to make sure that those resources are reflected in the state budget. I'm also grateful for the partnership of Deputy Commissioner McGee and the team of the Department of Housing. This is a moral issue. This is a critical issue for Connecticut. We have a housing crisis right here in the Hartford area, in the New Haven area. We can solve it, but we have to make sure that people don't freeze this winter. That is a critical threat that's coming up as the city gets short. Thank you.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Jeff Luxembourg, State Representative from Manchester, House Chair of the Housing Committee. Thank you to the Connecticut Coalition to End Homelessness and all of the outstanding nonprofit providers that I see in the audience. And a special note to Barbara Shaw from Hands on Hartford, who's here with us today doing outstanding work. One of the things I've learned from spending a lot of time with people who have experienced homelessness in Connecticut, many of whom are struggling and hurting right now, is how hard it is when people won't look you in the eye. They won't shake your hand. They won't validate your humanity. And if you talk to people, it's a hard thing to grapple with. when you hear it from the perspective of a person experiencing homelessness, what it feels like to be ignored in your own state, in your own city, in your own town. And when you have 2 years now in a row where homelessness in the state has risen dramatically, and you have budget surpluses available, it's on us, the people up here, to take more aggressive action and to put our dollars where our hearts and values are as a state. And I think that's the housing committee's challenge, that's our legislature's challenge. That's a challenge we're going to work in partnership with our friends in the Department of Housing, the governor's office, and at a time when it's hard to find bipartisanship at the local level, and certainly in Washington. If you've been watching the news the last few days, and for the last many years, here we stand today with an incredible bipartisan coalition. The ranking member of the Housing Committee, Tony Scott. This is a special opportunity we have here to have this bipartisan coalition work together to solve a vexatious problem in the state by putting the dollars to the nonprofit providers that are saving lives every day. That's what we're here to do. And it is a great honor just to be one person up here. I'm very grateful to have Representative Tony Scott's partnership in this work and part of all these incredible groups. And we're grateful to have the media's attention here as well. But it's easy for elected officials to stand at a podium and talk at a press conference. The next step is do the hard work. Convince the Appropriations Committee, convince leadership, convince the governor's office, work together to make sure the dollars are being spent well, but save lives. We can't have a third year in a row where we can find money for tax cuts, but we can't find money to stop homelessness from rising in our state. We just can't. So let's get it done together in a bipartisan fashion, and thank you for having me.
Thanks, Jeff. You can clearly see his passion is there. I'm State Representative Tony Scott. I'm the ranking member of the Housing Committee. And one of the first communications Jeff and I had when we both became members of the Housing Committee, him being the chair, we sat down at lunch, and we had a very long lunch. It was a couple hours. And one of the big topics came up was homelessness. At that point, it was just coming to our attention that the numbers were rising. And now we have the second year of the numbers rising. While less rising, it is still rising. There is a problem. We have to address and acknowledge there is a problem. And it's our duty as elected officials to address that problem. We took a little step this year in doing so. We had a unanimous vote on the Housing Committee to approve $50 million for homelessness support. We had a unanimous support. Everybody in the committee did so. Unfortunately, we got 5. Next year, we busting our butt up there again and trying to get more money for that. As we talk about surpluses, other situations, other dollars that come available, how homelessness needs to be on that list, way at the top of how we're going to use those dollars. You know, the government's here to support those in need. That's why we're here. That's why the government exists. We're not doing a good enough job, and we need to do better. I look forward to working with the housing, Department of Housing. We can figure this out. This is not a partisan issue. You can see that up here. This is not a partisan issue. It is not. It is a humanitarian issue that we need to address, and we need to put that forefront in our minds. So I'm grateful for everybody here, all those frontline workers who are out there doing the actual work. Thank you. Sarah, thank you for leading that charge on this end here. Let us know what we need. We're gonna put up, we have a lot of people here that's gonna support you, and we'll do our best to get those numbers going in the right direction, which is downward. And that's what we have to do. We have to take steps. That's the next step we're going to take. So thank you. Next will be Representative Corey Paris, who's a great young legislator who has a ton of passion. So be prepared for that. I expect that.
Emphasis on the young part.
Exactly. But listen, he's a great guy to listen to and understand. So thank you.
Good morning, everyone.
Well, I think it's evident that now that I'm young, I can probably speak from a different standpoint. But I appreciate being here with my colleagues. You know, I think people often believe that we are fighting on many issues, certainly around creating a social safety net for those who truly need it in our state. But I think, as you can probably see right here, Republicans and Democrats, black and white, male and female, whatever the case may be, we are committed to ensuring that our budget matches with our values here in our state. And why do I say that? I say that because a budget on a state level, on a local level, on a federal level says a lot about the values that that country or that governmental entity has. And not to say that our values aren't in the right place. I think that we all believe and know that homelessness needs to end, but it's how we do it. And when I was growing up, there was always an expression. This might be showing my age, Representative. There is warning before destruction. And I think that with the case of homelessness, there is a cycle warning that we're not paying attention to that will cause bigger challenges in the future that we're not going to be able to put back into this box that seems to be unraveling. So when we talk about homelessness, which 13% uptick in homelessness is awful, 1% is awful, but this is atrocious in terms of what we're facing in our state. We're also talking about the learning behaviors of our children in the school systems, which now homelessness is putting more pressure on teachers. We talk about those with IDE issues and challenges, which now the resources that we need to put out there to help those individuals are far and few between because we can't meet the need because a lot of things aren't being identified because people are homeless. We talk about domestic violence issues that are going up and the rates of domestic violence cases that are going up because of homelessness. But above all else, let's not think that those who are living in condos or mansions or whatever the case may be across Greenwich and New Canaan and certainly in West Hartford or Avon, Canton, and Stanford, let's not think that they are completely solidified and protected. Because they are one paycheck away, 1 month away from being homeless in a lot of cases. We have to wake up and recognize that these issues, this issue in particular, it has a larger implication in terms of what we're going to be facing in our state. Now, if we're going to make sure that we are providing a safe, equitable, inclusive, and affordable place for every man, woman, and child in our state, the first issue that we need to focus on is homelessness. That has no racial implication, it has no party implication. It is simply a moral issue that if we do not face, the only people that we have to reckon with are ourselves. So I stand here in solidarity with all of those who are on the front line, certainly with the Department of Housing, with my colleagues, but above all else, every person who is homeless right now in the state of Connecticut, every person who is one step away from being homeless in the state of Connecticut, we hear you, we see you, and above all else, we are committed to making this wrong right in our state. Thank you so very much.
I'm State Representative Lenny Cavros-DeBra, and I represent Avon and Canton, which was just mentioned tonight. I'm so glad that my colleague Corey Paris mentioned Avon and Canton, to be honest, because I think that when we think about this problem, we think of homelessness as in our cities, our unhoused or in our cities. But guess where my constituents end up? They end up in poverty. And so, because the reality is they don't know necessarily to call our social services, they don't know to call us, and they end up here. So that's part of the reason why I'm here. But more than that, yesterday I actually called Sarah Fox and I reached out to Megan Scanlon at CCADV, and I wanted to make sure that I was here today because 6 years ago I was honored to co-found an organization. And because of that organization, Forward Connecticut, we also often have people who reach out to us in the greater Hartford area when they have nowhere else to go. And that situation happened to us on Friday night when a mom had fled a domestic violence situation, ended up in a shelter in New Haven, was then assaulted in that shelter in New Haven, ended up taking a bus, and as far as she could go was New Britain. And so on Friday night, she was at Walgreens in New Britain with her 1-year-old, with no place to go, no place to sleep, and she is now being great unhoused, right? So we were able to make a collection and provide some money to get her into a motel for a few nights. Not an ideal situation with a 1-year-old, because what about diapers? What about formula? What about everything else that goes into A, being a single parent who is fleeing abuse, and B, where she's going to be for the next few days. I have to tell you that, and I'm not the first representative to say this. In fact, it was said to me when I was a freshman by Representative Q. Williams. Call 211. You as an individual, call 211 and see what your experience is. I would invite, if any of my representatives and senator up here have not done that, I would invite them to do so, especially for all of the colleagues who are not standing with us today. See how long it takes you to get through, because we do not have enough staff, because we do not have enough hours, and because the reality is that when you call 211, we still don't have enough beds. I believe I was told yesterday that one of our domestic violence shelters is at 170% capacity. That is absolutely unacceptable. Sarah said it up top, my other colleague said it, this is a humanitarian crisis. The fact that we are not acknowledging the dignity of the unhoused and that we can turn a blind eye over and over and over again is unconscionable, unacceptable, and I can tell you right now, something that we are all going to fight for when we get back into session and we adjust that budget, because the time is far past. Also, as Sarah said, and as I have been telling people the last few days, it was cold last night. It's going to be cold again tonight. We're going to have a rainy weekend. It's not getting any better, and it's only going to get worse. And that 13% number is year over year. So we are going up and up and up and seeing a crisis that we haven't seen in years. We are not unique in Connecticut. It is happening all across the country. Where we are unique is that we have the opportunity, we have the surplus funds, we have to have the will. And so that's what this press conference is about today, is us having the will to move forward and to make sure that not only is the $5 million allocated, but that even more than that, because that was 1/10 of what was asked for. So we have to do that. I thank you for your time. I hope that you will keep that young mother with her 1-year-old in your prayers, because as of today, she still doesn't have a bed, and we are trying to figure out where she is going to be spending the weekend, because we cannot get her into a single domestic violence shelter across the state because there is no room. Thank you. Chief Case?
Thank you, Representative. It's nice to be here to talk about an issue that hits everybody. I'm the ranking member on Human Services. I come from the northwest corner, Winchester, Torrington, and Bolton. And I want to thank one of my good friends here from FISH, which is one of our shelters, for coming down here today. We have 2 shelters that serves the whole northwest corner, 900 square miles. Their shelters in Torrington. Past Torrington, there's no transportation. We have a drone looking at people where they are in the woods. We send transportation to go pick people up to bring them during the cold weather shelter. I serve on the board for the cold weather shelter. I serve on the board for the gathering place. The gathering place is a place for people in the northwest corner can come. They can take a shower. Out of the shower, their laundry can be done. They can go pick out some clothing. They can go pick out a little food. They can come on Thursdays and have a haircut. But they have to do their can intake so that they can get on the system, they can find their housing. When we worked so hard for $50 million, and we said we got $5 million, my heart dropped. I saw what it took last year for 3,900 people, $250,000, that's $6,400 a person for 39 people in a shelter. Out of those 39 people, by April 15th, when the shelter closed, the cold weather shelter, 27 of them had housing plans. Is that a success? Yes. Because when we get them into the cold weather shelters, we bring services in to try to help them to see what we can better their lives. What I find is a disservice, and I know I've spoken with Deputy Commissioner McGee, the $5 million, and hopefully we find out where it is today. We still don't have that money. We don't have our shelter yet in the northwest corner because we have to rent a place. Okay? Last year we were lucky enough to find an old hospital that donated the first floor. Last year we had a family with 2 kids, 2 autistic kids. I had an elderly mother, 74 years old. She was thrown out because she was no longer eligible for housing because she had a $14,000 death benefit from her husband. She's living in her car, afraid to go to the shelter because she didn't know what the people were like in the shelter. And I'm sick of hearing it. I know it's bipartisan here, but we can't say not in my time. But when you look at it, and a lot of us come from different areas around the state, think about it. Torrington, Connecticut, transportation. 900 square miles up through Massachusetts and New York border with no services, no transportation. We are on the fast lane to a cliff after the COVID dollars. Housing isn't there. The rents are going up. The landlords are scared to death to rent because they don't know if they're gonna get paid. We need to give some security for people and where they're gonna live. Don't think that just because it happens in Hartford, Bridgeport, in the cities, that it doesn't happen in the woods up in the northwest corner. It does. We need action. We need action now. We need those dollars to be released. Even if it's the $250,000 that we got last year, that $250,000 will make it work. But 39 people last year, and we're finding out it's almost 13 to 30% increase in the northwest corner for homeless people. Our small businesses, our restaurants are so happy to help us, give us meals. We are so happy to have that in the northwest corner. So how many more years do we have to do this? We shouldn't have to worry about homeless shelters. There are jobs out there for people. But when we have them in a shelter, I was talking to Representative Sanchez, we have a captive audience. Let's get them the services, let's get them what they need, and let's give them those steps to get back out into society. They have to want you. But people like myself, I'm a member of the board for the Cold Weather Shelter, for the Gathering Place, because if I don't put my feet out there and get involved, what good of it? I want to be a voice for you. Let's get these people out of the woods. When I say the woods, a lot of people say streets. Literally, walk a mile into the woods to find a tent city. And there's 10 or 12 tents set up. And people are living there with kids. They're afraid to come out because DCF might come around. Guys, wake up. The excuse of not in my town, or the excuse that it's not happening, isn't true. That $5 million, if I go back to that $50 million, it's everybody in this state that's struggling. There are people. Let's get it. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Representative Bobby Sanchez from the city of New Britain, and presently work in Meriden at a shelter. I manage a shelter in Meriden. New beginnings, new opportunities of Waterbury. And I can tell you that we definitely have a homeless problem in this state. And we cannot accommodate every individual that's out there that needs a place to sleep at night, a warm place to sleep, and a warm meal. We have a lot of issues in Connecticut. But one of the things that I'm not hearing is low-income housing. We need to talk more about low-income housing, because I have seen many beautiful buildings go up in different communities, including myself, my own, where they say, okay, 10% will be affordable, and the other 90% will be market value. Well, okay, market value is like $2,200 a month for a 2-bedroom apartment. So when I ask what's affordable, well, that's about $1,400 or $1,500. That's not affordable, not for low-income people, it's not. We need low-income housing, and we need the state to invest more in low-income housing so that people don't have to face homelessness in this state. And I can tell you, in the place that I manage now, I have been working hard to hire individuals because we have lost employees. We don't pay them enough. It's not an easy job. And it's hard. It's hard to get people to interview, and when you interview them, you tell them what they're going to make an hour, and they no, they turn it down. So yes, there's a crisis in this state. I'm glad that there's $5 million coming our way to help. It's not enough. I don't even think 50 million is enough. So we really, the legislature. And again, this is not a Republican thing, this is not a Democratic, this is a humanity issue. We need to come together and talk about how we can make things better in this state. And right now, I can tell you I'll give you a C as a grade. As a former teacher, I'll give you a C. I can't give you an A. I'll give the state of Connecticut a C. But we really do have some issues that we need to address And I'm hoping to hear today that the Department of Housing is going to release the $5 million. But when we go into session next year, I really think we need to talk about the issues that are in front of us, and we need to invest more in low-income housing and add more dollars to the cans and into the homelessness of the homeless shelters throughout the state of Connecticut, because we need that money and we need it not now, we need it yesterday. Thank you.
Well, good morning, everyone. A lot has been said. Brandon McGee, Deputy Commissioner for the State Department of Housing, former legislator, and I can't help but to say thank you to each and every one of you for your advocacy and your bipartisanship on this issue. I think it's been said multiple times that this is beyond party affiliation. This has everything to do with individuals' humanity. I can give you stories, I can talk about lived experiences, all of that. But I think my commissioner would appreciate me sticking to the script and sharing with you all where we are as an agency. Sarah, thanks. Thank you to all of our CAM leadership, my team. I know Steve is here, so if you have any questions, you ask him. But we all know that Governor Ned Lamont and the legislature has made historic investments when we talk about housing. Over $800 million allocated to the development of housing, preservation of housing, and it's not an easy task. You think of 800 million, we know that's not enough, right? When we talk about the importance of developing quality, affordable housing for all in the state of Connecticut. Some might be home ownership, time to own, My Home CT. Still got a little challenges and we're trying to fix it. But some would love to own their own home. There are others who are interested in just an affordable unit, not at $1,700 or $2,200, but affordable. And I think one of the questions that we're all talking and trying to figure out is, what is affordability here in the state of Connecticut? Some of the things that we've been able to do with some of these resources is really back into this idea of workforce training housing. How can we provide assistance to individuals who are working in school, yet can't afford to live in their units? We're going to provide assistance there. There is also this conversation with developers throughout the state of Connecticut. We, as a department, have done an extremely tedious job with being intentional about going throughout the state and engaging with developers, big and small, to ensure that they understand what the needs are here in the state of Connecticut. Let's talk about our homeless population. I don't want to see anybody on the street. Yeah, we talk about veterans, and that's important. We were able to get veterans off the street. And I remember we had those conversations as the former chair of the Housing Committee. And I'm happy to hang our hat on that. But we still have an issue with individuals and children who are on the street. And yes, as we are preparing for cold weather, my children will tell you it is not cold. They're still wearing shorts, and I'm like, it's cold. Y'all need to get it together. I am happy to announce, while $5 million is not enough, those funds will be released to support all of our CANs, all of our practitioners as they continue to do their work. And we will continue to work alongside the governor, the legislature, and you in this room on getting more money to support this very, very important issue. Over the last 2 months, myself, the commissioner, other agencies, because we realize DOH, Department of Housing, cannot do it on its own. We just can't do it. And so we have partnered, and we continue to partner with our interagencies, DSS, Demas, just to name a couple, to attack this issue, and also to work alongside each of our CANs, all of the service providers, to figure out, well, what's happening here and how can we utilize these resources to meet the needs of those you serve every single day. And so one of the things that I think is important, the state of Connecticut received a HUD award to increase outreach and engage individuals and families living on the street. We all know that that allows partners and those of you in this space to identify those who are unhoused. You're already doing it. You're already doing it. But this hopefully is an additional resource that we could help to support those who are unhoused. The other piece is Representative Paris mentioned education, and I thought it was extremely important. We have a series of vouchers that we will be releasing. 150 vouchers for those families in shelters whose children are in Head Start. We want to make sure every child and their parent are not in a shelter, but in a home, in a place that they can call home. In addition, DOH has released 175 vouchers for families living in homeless shelters. Yeah, I can hear you now. I can hear it, and I agree with you. It's not enough. It is not enough. And then lastly, DOH is committed to 160 vouchers to the previously mentioned unsheltered award that I mentioned, but we have a ton of work to do. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention that. The work is undone, but we are unable to do it by ourselves. And we're so very honored to partner with all of you to continue this systemic issue we have in the state of Connecticut, in that of the housing crisis. And so Jay Case, and I'm happy, I'm gonna keep saying it, he said, not those communities, right, that are saying, not in my front yard, not in my backyard, we've got to address it. We also understand that one size does not fit all. And so the department is working alongside our small towns, our larger cities, to figure out how do we work together to provide quality and affordable housing in many of our communities throughout the state. Yes, there's infrastructure challenges, that's big. Resiliency issues, when we talk about our environment, that's huge and that's real. Not just in our suburban neighborhoods, in our cities as well. So it's so complex, and if only we can give ourselves a little bit of grace, some patience, but to continue working to help those who are unhoused is our top goal. So again, thank you for this convening. I told Sarah, I said, beyond a press conference, I think we may need to have another roundtable, and I know y'all tired of it, but there are those of us who are not on the front line that need to better understand what is happening on the street or in the woods, because it's real. But because we have these fancy titles and all, we don't know everything. And it's important that you say what you don't know so that you're better informed and you can move forward to inform strategies that help people. So again, thank you so much for your support.
So thank you to every single one of you for showing up, for telling your stories through your lens and recognizing this critical issue. I will say, it's heartening to know we have your support. Myself, I experienced homelessness as a child. That memory lives with me every day. I was poor. I was very poor. I mean, my family is still very poor. And some of my family members fall into homelessness now. And when we house a family, when we bring that mom in from the cold, we create security. We help children to learn. We change trajectory. For myself, being housed changed my life. When my mother became housed, it changed my life again. It's not just about us. It's about all of those children who are sitting outside in cars today. It's about those 78 youth who are in their cars or outside or in unstable housing situations, moving from place to place. When you don't have a home and you don't know what's next, you cannot work. You can't be fully present to work, and we can't expect you to be. You cannot be healthy for our seniors, the 89-year-old in New London who was in shelter. How can we expect her to be able to fulfill her needs? We can't. We have to understand that for every elderly person in their car tonight, we must do better. So I call upon all of our legislative leaders, and it sounds like there's great intent today, including the Department of Housing and all of our state agencies, to come together. We must make sure that this isn't a reality. And one life lost this winter is one too many. We must also make sure that our staff can thrive and that they have leadership levels, because we have an emergency response system that works that needs to be funded. The $50 million, I will agree, not enough. We need more. Our providers who are here today will tell you that was not enough, but it was what we could ask for. And today, we have a humanitarian crisis on our hands. People will freeze if we don't do something. So that was our legislative ask. For our local communities, come together. We must all come together with your coordinated access networks and make sure no one freezes. So our Department of Emergency Management, our local leaders, really banded together with faith leaders, libraries, all those who touch the homeless individuals every day and our in-house individuals to make sure people are safe. We have the resources, we need to put them together to save lives. No one should die on the street. And for you out there today, facing a housing challenge, for the mom who's in her house today wondering what's going to happen tomorrow, for the youth who's outside who hasn't called 211, I know the response is too slow. We know it's a funding issue. The whole system from 211 on needs funding. We are nothing without the entire spectrum. Homelessness can also not be uncoupled from affordable housing. So we must understand that homelessness will persist unless we really do something today. So for those of you who have been scared, like I have been scared about being homeless today, I would say call 211, go to your local community hubs. We will try to help, we will assist. We're coming together, we are here to support you. We recognize that our response may be too long. We are really trying to get the job done, so thank you to every one of you. And we will take questions now.
So if there's such broad bipartisan support for this, why was there an issue with getting an extra $50 million into a $20 billion budget?
I'm not, some joking here about how I may be the housing chair, but I'm not a member of the appropriations committee. I think it's a great question. $5 million is a lot more than a lot of other worthy causes that come before the legislature and the governor got, and it's a lot less than other worthy asks. I think part of the challenge is educating all the members of the legislature about how serious the problem is. I think we made significant progress in the last legislative session, not just to get $5 million, but to really, really increase awareness and a deeper level of understanding of the complexity of the problem and the cost of the problem. But I think that's an ongoing battle. And we're hoping in this upcoming legislative session, we can build on the momentum of getting a $5 million increase and building more understanding and awareness of the severity of the problem to move the ball forward even more.
Just to back that up real quick, so we're gonna see a little bit more of Cliff that's coming. If anybody remembers, last year during the cold weather shelter, yes, we worked on some buses to come in. Eastern Connecticut helped us, Northwest Transit helped us. They're no longer free this year. Those people aren't going to be riding the bus. How are they going to get to the shelters? They don't have the money to pay for the transportation. That was part of the reason for the $50 million ask, because we saw the cliff coming after the ARPA dollars are gone. This is just going to be the tip to hopefully get people into the shelter. How do we get them there? That's the big issue. Those ARPA dollars are gone. In the human services world, the cliff is coming. The cliff is here. That transportation is done, guys. We all know that. We didn't have a plan to pick it up afterwards. So we have to work on that.
Is this sort of, I mean, for human services in particular, there's probably a lot of human services that are going to be facing these cliffs when the ARPA dollars run out. So should we have a little flexibility in the budget guardrails for services like that?
We have tried and we worked on it. I asked when ARPA dollars came forward through, we oversee DSS in a multitude of our catchment, most vulnerable people committees, that our cliff is here. There are more and more people that are going on state aid. There are more and more people who are needing SNAP, more and more people who are needing to put food on the table to help their families. We have not done enough to figure out the exit plan of the ARPA dollars and the federal dollars that we have. Thank God we had them during a difficult time. But I think we are coming down a road of a even more difficult time. And I'm sitting with my housing people here because we talk about rents. Looked at a rent just to try to help somebody out in Canaan, Connecticut. If everybody knows where that is, it's a little bit farther. Two-bedroom apartment, $3,600 a month. How does one afford that? How does one get to that apartment and go get a job when they don't have transportation? We are one state. We have great cities. We have great transportation. We have train systems. We have transit. Come on out and join me for a week and see what's going on when you don't have transportation and you can't get around. The housing is one thing, getting people around. Thank you.
Brandon, these folks have been talking about they need money now. They already should have the money or whatever they get in the funds. You said it's coming. When is it coming?
Well, we all know in state government, there are processes and all types of systems. The money is on its way. We have and continue to work with OPM to ensure that the dollars are getting to the necessary organization that will distribute those funds.
Thanks.
So is the $5 million for cold weather funding,
Cold weather.
is that sufficient to meet the need?
Of course it is. But it's the money that's been appropriated, and we want to get that $5 million out to the streets, to the woods, to ensure that folks have the proper resources that will support those who are unhoused during the winter.
Sure, so if that's insufficient for this upcoming season, I mean, when that runs out, what's the plan?
Talk to the legislature.
I can real quickly, I just want to make that the commissioner know.
Just saying.
These dollars were approved at the end of the legislative session. And I'm sorry, Brandon, I'm going to say this, those dollars should be out to the cans now. We in the Northwest corner, I'm just speaking for me because I'm on the board, we have to rent a place. We're less than 2 months away from opening, and we don't have money to rent a place yet. We still have to put that place together. We have to get the fire inspections, we have to get the health inspector. We have a lot of inspections that take a long time to do. Those dollars were appropriated, those dollars need to be released. We have to get staff to do this. Before COVID, just remember, and I just know from my Northwest corner, it was run by volunteers and mostly church business. Now we have to pay staff because those volunteers are no longer. We have to pay staff to be there. Just think about it. It's not a homeless shelter that's open 24/7. 5 o'clock at night, you're out at 7 o'clock in the morning. And then the shelter closes down, and you come back the next day. So it's not a 24-hour shelter. So when you're talking $250,000 for 39 people at $6,400 per person, we could actually get them in housing.
So let me say this. One of the things that I think is important to know that before we just had this knee-jerk reaction to responding to the needs of our unhoused during cold weather. It was our thinking in the department that we should engage our CAN system first to figure out how should we allocate these funds, $5 million, to ensure that folks are taken care of. And like I said during my remarks, it was very, very important to us to engage with folks, to be informed as to how we should spend these dollars. Now we are informed, and the dollars have been released. And I think it just bears repeating. We understand the dire straits that each and every one of you are in. But we also know that there's a process. And within that process, it takes a little time, but those funds will be released.
Sure, I apologize, I'm just not hearing what the plan is after the Is the answer that there isn't one?
Well, I'd like Representative Scott to go first, and he's waiting for that, I think they have set the appropriations.
I would just like a quick little step back and answer your question. Like, why didn't it get to $50 million? It's on me, it's on us. That's why. With the selling part, and it's sad to say you have to sell that, we have to sell it. We have to make it clear and do so. One of the big hurdles, I'll say, is the justification of the dollars and seeing that those are spent efficiently. Is this a test period? It might be. We can take that $5 million and spend it smartly and do as good as we can with those dollars. I think the people who might have had opposition to 50 million or 25 or 40, whatever number less than 50 was, think that can be opened up more. So we have a winter to show that 5 million can do something. We need to show that it does something. We need to show that it can be efficiently, smartly spent. And if we do, I think some of the pushback I've heard from the legislature could be alleviated some. So that's one thing they're trying to do. And hopefully that $5 million, while not enough, will open that door to floodgates sounds like.
Go ahead. I just wanted to add to, frankly, many years of lots of borrowing and not paying the bills put our state in a fiscal position where we had tremendous bonding indebtedness as well as a spending cap. So though economic times have improved, and though we credit Governor Lamont and our colleagues in the legislature for making significant payments towards that debt, that takes a little bit of time to free up the money in the budget to be able to make larger investments than $5 million. We've done that over the last several years, and because of that, you're going to see 400, 500, depending on which estimates you're looking. You're going to start to see hundreds of millions of dollars that not only weren't available for homelessness, but weren't available for anything, unlocked, and now available for the state of Connecticut to spend on our most important priorities. And so that's part of why, you say, gosh, I want to support it, why did you do it? That's part of why. But I think because we got $5 billion, we improved the education, now we're heading into future budgets where less of the money's automatically off the table because it's forced to go into bonded indebtedness. We now have a very special opportunity because of really bipartisan fiscal responsibility to make more significant investments in rescuing the homeless response system that I think will make a difference.
And just to speak on those guardrails once more, I think the other important piece is that there are so many important challenges that we have before us. When we're trying to craft these budgets, build out these budgets in the budget year, both Republicans and Democrats, members of the Appropriations Committee, and certainly in other areas of our government, are trying to figure out which issues are the most urgent right now for us to put money towards. All right? So if there was actually a fight going on between the Republicans and the Democrats of who could give more money to nonprofits this year to help with the cost of living adjustment that they have to deal with. Now, you might ask yourself, well, nonprofits and homelessness, how are we going to deal with that? Well, let me explain that to you for a quick second. The more money that nonprofits get in terms of paying their employees more and being able to have more resources made available for direct services, that's more resources going to those children who are homeless. Representative Sanchez can tell you this. There are children right now who are living in cars, but then their parents are paying for them to go to child care programs. When they go to those child care programs are actually probably the most adamant food providers for those children who don't eat over the weekends, but then they get 3 meals and 2 snacks when they're going to the program each day. Us being able to fund the resources for those nonprofit sector folks and also for the childcare programs as an example, is us being able to feed a child that we may not be able to cover in the 5 million with the homelessness. In addition to that, you think about the rising homelessness rate on college campuses. Well, us being able to put more money into our college system will be able to help combat some of that. It's not a one way to fix it all. We know it's not the best way to fix it all. My concern, as I had shared with the Deputy Commissioner, is certainly the rate of substance abuse that will continue to rise as we see more people on the streets. But it's one way to fix it, given what constraints and guardrails we have for our budget. And again, I think we're all committed to going back to work on that moving forward.
Yeah, talk a little bit about immediate action. You're saying the money's gonna be released, you have these vouchers coming in. Well, when are you gonna cash it to house families? It's cool tonight. You know, when are you gonna be able to actually use?
It's a partnership, and I think a lot of our folks in this space already are providing those resources or adding to the resources that they have.
I'll tell you real quick, so to your point, it's getting cold. Cold weather shelters generally don't open until November 15th. We still have to find a place to have a shelter. And I hope that we find out today exactly what dollars those are each can gets, so we know which place we can afford. And how many employees we can have there. Because yes, it is getting cold and people are out there. But per regulation, per what we have to do, our shelter is November 15th through April 15th. And then it's on. That's wrong, but that's the process.
So you said you hope you find out today, is that because there's a meeting today or just because that's something you hope?
I'm hoping that the money being released, as the Deputy Commissioner says, I'm hoping we can find out dollar figures that are going to the cans. Every can is different. Every can has different needs, but I'm hoping we can find out those dollars. Because I'll be honest with you, as my good friend David here from Fish, we canceled our meeting yesterday for our cold weather shelter until we find out how much dollars we do have to spend. So we are desperately waiting so that we can actually sign the paperwork to get the shelter open.
So clearly there is a lot of work to be done. What I will tell you is we have committed providers in every community across the state, working every single day tirelessly to get the job done. We need investments, that's for certain. But if we all come together, we can ensure that children are safe. And so today we face a hill, but we have to work together, like I said earlier, to ensure no one dies this winter, to have an adequate public response. And we're focused. I know everyone here today understands the issue. And we're gonna work all together. Homelessness is certainly solvable. We have numbers that are well within reach, although rising, but we can do something now to save lives today. So thank you very much to everyone and have a wonderful day.